beautiful souls. In this video, we're going to be talking about the primordial womb, the void, Sophia's breath, versus the inverted reversal void, which we'll touch in a little bit. We're not going to give them much energy, right? So in this video, we will discuss what is the void versus the inverted void used by the reversals, signs and symptoms you're in the void, perks of connecting to the void, and the most common guardian star beings of the primordial womb, and the purpose of the primordial womb, or the void, right? So the void, a journey into the primordial womb of source. So what is the void? It's a place of pure energy, no thoughts, silence. A place of nothing and no thing, right? The reset point. Before light, before sound or intention, beyond the light, stillness, before creation, there was the womb, the primordial womb of Sophia, the void, the primordial womb of source, the silence after destruction, right? Its sacred function. Darker the void, the more you step into true light. It's the purest form of love, bliss, oneness, our internal nature. Walking through the void equals the death of illusion, the death of the ego, or the dissolution of the ego, because the ego is still important, right? Reuniting with the original source self. But you'll notice that if you meditate, on the void and you go to the void, you'll notice how, you won't have a sense of identity. And that's kind of the beauty of it, right? You go back to that 0 point energy, right? So the void as a portal, it's a place of potential where you choose your Christic blueprint. And hell before creation's exhale. It is the inhale before creation's exhale. It's pure energy dancing in internal space. It's in between death and rebirth, the ultimate reset. So a lot of times we can find ourselves where we're in a void-like phase. And we are, our soul is in the void, so to speak, because we are multidimensional souls, right? Transformation in the void. So there's no polarity. Blueprints are rewritten. We shed old selves. We shed old identities. We shed, old karma and miasms from past lives there, right? We recall our gifts. We surrender to source, and we trust the unknown completely. And we completely just get our faith back in the universe, back to the prime creator, right? The liminal space. It's a transitional phase in between timelines, old reality dissolving to make space for something new. May feel like stagnation or being on hold. So you may feel like confused. Where am I at? What am I doing? Emotional confusion, guilt, questioning. Who am I? Why am I here? Why did I choose to come? Natural recalibration of the soul is happening, my dear ones. So birthplace of higher reality. So the void is the sacred incubation, right? It's a rebirthing of multidimensional self. It's the rebirthing of your multidimensional self and so many other souls throughout the galaxies, throughout the universe. It's Sophia codes before time. It holds the Christic, blueprints before they incarnate. Souls before individuation. Sacred stillness of the unmanifested destiny. There's a lot of souls that actually birth out of the void. It's very beautiful, So the inverted reversal dominated void, right? So these are the shadow voids. It's connected to the universal shadow body. The inverted void, or the false matrix, it feeds off of fear. It's distorted. It's part of the shadow matrix. It's tied to trauma loops, hijacked timelines. It's often confused with the true void. It feeds off fragmentation and fear. Okay, so sometimes we can catch ourselves in like a void-like state where a lot of us can, where we're just being completely hijacked, and a big question to ask yourself is, right where you're at, or what's coming, your onward look, what's coming towards you. Are you happy with that? Are your dreams really coming into reality? Or are you doing something you don't want to do? You're just doing it because you have to do it. Then you're more than likely on a hijacked timeline. Okay. So inverted void symptoms. So basically black sun beings, parasitic intelligences, really are the main ones operating this false void, right? So they can really get into our astral body, our astral plane through like nightmares, paralysis, so it's like sleep paralysis, definitely psychic warfare. So if you are a starseed or an indigo, it's so important to keep yourself, shielded, guarded, prayed up, however you want to say, right? And however you do it, right? There's no wrong way. There's no right or wrong way about this. Flashbacks, light trapped instead of rebirth. So you need to check to know for sure if you do want to connect to the void, or if you feel like you are in a void-like space, which I don't believe in coincidence, so there's a reason why you found this video, right? But just check. Does it feel rigid or does it feel soft? Because if it feels rigid, if you feel like, again, like you're being forced to do things you don't want to do, or like maybe there's a lot of like, when you meditate on it, there's a lot of like bad feelings, right? It's not like a soothing, relaxed, like I can let go of this body feeling. It's more of like, oh, I have to cling tight because I'm so scared, right? So one is fear and one is the primordial womb. So real void helpers, okay? So these are the most commonly known. There's so many, magnificent, benevolent beings up there that are helping co-creation with the prime creator. Higher dimensional collective guides us here. So higher dimensional collectives guides us here, especially when we're going through rebirth, spiritual initiations. You know what I'm saying? Drastic changes in time, huge timeline shifts, right? So most commonly they're the Aurora Guardians, the Rainbow Plasma Anchors, the Sophionic Dragon Mothers that birth galaxies, and you got the Elohim. They are template repairers in the void. Here's some pictures of them. So the Seraphim and the Oraphim, they offer clarity, purification, and the restoration of divine will, while the Aurora Guardians, they use rainbow plasma to guide souls back home. They escort souls safely through the void during planetary ascension and personal walk-ins. And the Sophionic Dragon Mothers, the blue flame keepers, there's the Aquafarians, there's the Serpentine Matriarchs, and then there's the Mother of the Mother Arc frequency and the Mother Arc frequency. Dragon lineages that act as midwives of creation in the void, birthing galaxies, healing timelines, flowing with liquid plasma and light. And then you got the Elohim, like I said, they are the Christic founders. They travel through the void to reseed fallen systems. They are template repairers and soul retrieval architects. So that's a little bit more on what they're doing and more of their focus there. And the beings you can, connect with when you tap into the primordial womb. So if you're connecting with one of these beings, they look something similar like this. They might even appear differently. Everyone's different, but you'll know the difference. You know what I'm saying? And it's always important to ask yourself before you tap into somewhere, like, or be clear with your intention, so you don't end up somewhere you don't want to end up. So void triggers. So when you're in the void, okay, so let's say you're in a void-like phase. You're in between places, you're in a transitional phase, you're shedding old egos, old identities, and you kind of feel like, okay, what's next for me? Like, it's like I can't, like, you feel kind of limited, but you're not limited, right? So you could find yourself craving a lot of water, needing a lot of sleep. Maybe you find yourself wanting to get a lot more sunlight, moonlight, wanting to go outside a lot more, focusing on self-care, doing a lot of things for yourself, you know what I'm saying, taking baths, doing a lot of womb work. And this is for the men too, because men, you do have a womb chakra, you do have a womb center. Just because you are a man and you cannot birth a kid, like, through your biological body, but most can't, right? But, still, womb work is important. Herbal baths, inner child and your shadow is returning. So you can find things from like when you were a kid popping up that you really buried, that you kind of forgot about, or you could just be purging a lot of things. So maybe you're sitting there in silence, or you're trying to clear your mind, but you keep having these thoughts. It's always important to just witness them, let them pass. Because if you try to like resist them, if you try to like numb the pain, run from them, it's always going to persist, and it's only going to just get worse, right, when it comes back, right? So void calls old fragments home to be reborn. So again, you can notice yourself just like thinking about things you had forgotten about, and then being like, okay, well, damn, I didn't even know that kind of affected me, but obviously this is important why I'm witnessing it. Or sometimes it's not. Sometimes they do our mental plane and our mental body. And that's why, again, I say, and I will stress, it's so important to, like, you know, declare you belong to no thing or no one, and your soul is just not for sale, okay? And you're a divine, sovereign, co-creator being, period, through and through. You gotta believe that, understand that, okay? So how intuition shifts in the void. So you can notice that your intuition may not be like off. It may be off, but you may have like more subtle cues, subtle pulses, or maybe you have no direction, right? Or maybe you're not really getting much from your gut, okay? And it's like you feel silent, or maybe you might feel a little bit disconnected, right? But really, it's kind of for you to focus more on your womb, your heart space, and your root, and more of your lower chakras like your sacral and your solar. So just so we can get those online, so really our higher chakras, which is what's really going to connect us to, like, you know, those clairs and those psychic gifts and, you know, unlocking more of our DNA. We got to really get those kind of under control in a sense, get them, you know, healthy and moving like they need to be moving before we can really like get to the 5D, 6D, 7D and so beyond, right? And you're gonna find yourself probably leaning more towards a lot of feeling than thinking. You'll notice that, you know, you get to a point in your spiritual journey where you realize that a lot of times our mind, our thoughts are used against us, you know, and they shouldn't be, but that's kind of part of the reversals plans. You know, they're able to get into our mental plane. A lot of people are not aware of them, and even it's important to understand how consent works, because, you know, it's just so important. So you're not disconnected, though. Understand this. You may feel that way. You may feel like, oh my God, like I have no direction. I don't know what's next. Like, what am I doing with myself? Is this even working? You may feel like, oh, I was just getting signs. I was just getting, you know, messages, and now you're not. It's because you're getting rewoven, right? And you're really being called to trust yourself more. So the void is not the end, honey, okay? It is where your soul goes to be remembered, rewoven, and reborn. You know, it's also a place, again, of the great reset, you know, rebirth, really connecting to your Christic blueprint, right? And again, like, I'm not just trying to bring fear or anything like that, but just always just, you know, kind of tap in with your guides, you know, fill it out. Which void am I in? Which void am I connecting to? Or, you know, if you want to be safe about it, like I said, put your intention in first. Like, I'm only going to be connecting to the Sophionic Primordial Womb, the divine void, the divine sacred womb, right? However you say it. You put that intention out and you should be connecting to that, okay? So I love you guys. Omni love, absolute healing. And I will talk to you guys in the next transmission.